What's up, guys, and welcome back to the podcast. My name is Robbie Cassidy, and today we're going to discuss neck pain and tightness. Now, when I am speaking about neck pain and tightness, really this episode is going to be more focused on is people that have that recurring tightness up their traps, into their neck, maybe into their shoulders, and I'm not going to go into details on specific injuries because obviously for that in particular, like let's say whiplash, things like that, it's best to speak to a professional directly about your condition. And if you want any help with it, you can definitely send me a message and we can set up a call and discuss it. But it is dangerous to give out specific information on something as serious as a neck injury. Okay, so what I'm talking about in this episode is more neck kind of tightness, stiffness, discomfort that a lot of people get from sitting at a desk. Okay, so that's what I want to cover today, and I want to cover why we need to work on the neck as well, because it is one of the first places that you will lose mobility as you age, and if you don't work on it, that's going to affect you earlier on in life, and you want to keep your mobility for as long as possible. You want to keep it for your entire life. You want to be, when you're 70 years old, able to train at whatever level you want, and you want to be able to push on and tackle obstacles and take on new or make sure to, I guess, try out new experiences throughout your life. And by having the mobility to do that, by having the strength, by having the health, you will be able to do it. So it'll give you the opportunity, it'll open up a lot more doors to what you can do as you get older. So in this episode, as I said, I'm going to cover why do necks in particular get tight. I'm going to cover some of the red flags that you might see, some of the psychosocial factors, and then in the end, how do you improve it, or what can you do to work on it? So why do necks get tight in particular? Now, there's loads of reasons for this. It could be an injury from sport, it could be a road traffic accident, you had a collision, you'd whiplash after it. It could be the position that you are sitting in all day. It could be even that you got a concussion, you got a bang, and now you're really protecting your head, so you really lock up all the muscles around your neck. The area itself is highly protected. It's very, very, very protected by the body because of the nerves that come out there. And if you damage the spinal cord that high up, it will obviously leave you paralyzed. So the body knows that, you know that, so consciously and subconsciously, you're going to be protecting your neck at all costs. Now, when you have that conscious and subconscious protection, what can happen there is that things can, once people get stressed, if there is an issue that you get a bang, as I said, in sports or anything like that, or a road traffic accident and you get a whiplash or you bang your head, or if you're sitting in a certain position awkwardly in a car and you're going on a long drive and you're trying to hold your neck in that position, or if you're on a boat or a jet ski or whatever and you're just into the wind all the time. I got it at the start with a scooter, driving on a scooter where you're just helmet taking a huge hit, or so much, I guess, wind and resistance against you, and you're always trying to hold the position. It's going to get tight from that as well. And depending on the position that you're in all day, if you don't move it, and if you're not changing it up and you're just sitting staring at a screen, well, the muscles that are around that area are going to get fatigued because they're just in a constant contraction, holding it. So that's why it is important to change your positions and change your neck position and get it moving and work it around in circles and do all the basic range of motion stuff, because it gets it moving in the ranges that you may not be using that much. Now, you could be, the thing is, if you play a sport, most likely when you're running and you're looking over your shoulder, a field sport I should say, you're looking over your shoulder and you're looking up for a ball, or if you're on let's say if you're playing any sport, like if you're doing jiu-jitsu, if you're playing tennis, boxing, whatever your sport is, horse riding, if you're doing these things, or running or cycling, whatever, I don't want to go into all the sports, if you are doing these things, a lot of the time you're going to be looking left and right, and it actually just rings a bell there with me in that, or brings up an idea, is that when I was talking to Shane Finn, an ultra runner from Kerry, and really good podcast Really interesting guy. Definitely would recommend people checking him out. When I was talking to him, he did this long cycle across America, and he had been training on Irish roads the whole time. So he'd been looking over his right shoulder on Irish roads. But then when he went to America, the side of the road changed that he was cycling on. So he had to look over his left shoulder. And from repeatedly doing that, he started getting neck pain, and a lot of neck pain. And it's because it was just too much of a change. And as a result, it took its toll. Now, the same thing can happen is if you're a cyclist, if you're a long distance cyclist, or if you're used to cycling a certain trail or a certain road and then you have to go longer distance, the same thing can happen to you as well, in that just that repeated movement over a long period of time is going to cause you bother. The same as just sitting at a desk all day will cause you problems. So we need to take all these things into account of, first, the fact that the neck is highly protected by the nervous system, and you will, if you're consciously aware of it, it will be protected by you also. On top of that, it's easy to get a whiplash injury, or it's easy to get an injury that the neck is involved in terms of like if you get hit in the body and your neck follows, anything like that. There's loads of things that could happen, and it might not be an injury, it might just be an impact. Then on top of that, the position that you're sitting in all day, or if you're sitting in a car on a long journey and you don't have a headrest, or if you're, as I was saying, driving into the wind in a scooter, all these things can contribute. And in the majority of cases, it's, as I said, it's either overprotection or fatigue is kind of the main reasons that it does, or a neck will get tight. Now, things that you need to look at are things that you need to become aware of when you're dealing with a neck issue. Okay, really important that if you start to get any symptoms into your hands, okay, bilateral at the same time, you're starting to feel symptoms in your hand, or you're finding that you can't grip things as well anymore. If you're getting extreme pain, obviously, dizziness, double vision, a severe headache, or a severe headache specifically at the back of your head, any severe limitation in range of motion, if you have a trauma, if you start to faint, feel sick, or have trouble speaking after an impact to the head or an impact to your neck, well then it's extremely important that you go get that assessed as soon as possible. Because you don't want to be thinking, oh, it's going to be all right, and then actually be something more sinister or a bigger issue. So there is things with the neck that you need to make sure that you're taking account of. And as I said, that's like double vision, dizziness, severe headaches, trauma, fainting, feeling sick, trouble speaking. And then the bilateral symptoms is a huge one, where you start getting symptoms into both hands at the same time. A lot of the time when I deal with people who have, let's say, symptoms into their forearm and into their hands, and they don't really know what it's from, they don't remember injuring them, and they don't really know what the issue is coming from. A lot of the time it's coming from the neck, because the nerves to your hands obviously leave your cervical spine and originate, I should say, at your cervical spine. So if there is a blockage there, or if there's an issue there, well then that's going to translate down along the chain, and you can get numbness, tingling, you can lose function, you might have no sensory or no feeling, in them at all. A lot of other issues can come with that as well. Some other things that can increase the pain that you feel in your neck and the tightness that you feel in your neck. I'm gonna actually focus more, say, tightness and discomfort as opposed to pain, because pain, it's time to get that assessed. Tightness and discomfort is usually by fatigue. Well, a few things that can exasperate that or make it worse is if you start thinking that the pain is something that needs to be eliminated before getting back to any activity at all, or if the issue, or if you have passive attitudes towards therapy instead of in terms of like, okay, my neck is tight now and there's a lot of discomfort in it, soreness, so I'm going to go get a massage, and that's your only move. Well then that's a passive attitude towards therapy, and that's going to be short-term relief. You'll feel great for a small while, and then you're going to not feel so great after that. On top of that, it'd be like using extended rest, so resting for just too long, taking way too long off, and trying to let it heal. And this is a big issue I see with most injuries, is that people think the best thing to do is just rest and recover, and nearly always it's not. There's times you need to rest, but there's definitely times you need to actually rehab as well and get in and do the activities that are causing you issues. And then it's obviously reduced activity or withdrawal. So pulling back from a sport and being afraid to get back to sport. And that's a huge one with people that I deal with specifically, who are afraid to get back because their neck is giving them trouble. And in case they make it worse. And that withdrawal then pulling out can obviously lead to different things, like different mental issues, I guess, psychological issues, and that you're not participating in the activities that you enjoy, and then that's going to have a compound effect down the line as well. Outside of that, the other ones, and I'm just touching on these, is like high intake of alcohol or other substances outside of it because of the injury. That's another big one that people need to be aware of. And if you see these things in people that you know who've had an injury, especially around their neck, it's time to speak to them and talk to them and see how they're feeling. And a lot of times it might be that you just need to refer them on to a professional. So I just said I better put those in there because they're very, very common with these issues, and they can actually exacerbate the issue itself and make it worse. Now, to move on from there, how do you improve it? What can you work on? What can you do to improve the neck tightness that you feel or soreness that you feel from, whether it be, as I said, sitting at a desk, or if it is from like just an extended journey, sleeping awkwardly on a plane, or whatever it is? I will always look at getting it moving first. Once it's not an injury, obviously. Getting it moving it into different ranges, into different positions. Think about these very simple ones. So you have chin to chest and look straight up overhead. You've ear to shoulder on both sides. You have rotations that you look left to right. You have glides that you're moving more your chin over and back. And then you've obviously front to back. So I think you have chin to chest, rotations, and then you've obviously the normal full rotation of your neck as opposed to looking left to right. And the last one then is a chin poke, where you're poking your chin out and then you're sucking it back like a double chin. I'm doing it here as I talk, that's why my voice is changing. But do those basic movements consistently to get the best out of to I guess get the neck moving and to help reduce the soreness and tightness that you feel. Now, when do you do them? I would say every hour on the hour is a great time to do it, especially if you're sitting at a desk all day and you don't have many opportunities to move around. That's a great time to do it. I would also say to maybe take time in the morning or the evening before your gym session or wherever it is, in the car if you're stuck in traffic, if you're waiting for the kettle to boil, whatever it is, if you're waiting in an elevator, just get them moving. But I always say to people is that when you get this, like when these issues are kicking up, what you'll see is people will do like 2 reps or 3 reps that they get it moving. And then they wonder why it comes back in 5 minutes and they have to do it again. If you increase your reps from 2 to 3 up to maybe 10 to 15, that'll stay away a lot longer because you're taking care of the main issue. You're not just moving it to get out of pain for that second. You're really working on it. And that will make a huge, that will have a huge impact on it. On top of that, building strength and contracting the area, contracting the muscles is a great way of reducing tightness. For the neck, you can do loads of them lying off the edge of a bed or a couch and bringing your chin to your chest, to more extreme stuff that you're using resistance bands, or you could do wrestler curls if you really want to. The crazy one, but they can be done if you feel like you have the strength to do it. And that's where you're lying on your back and you're curling up with your neck and then you're going down again. But that's high level stuff, so don't worry about it. Look up a video of it if you want to. I would say remember that the eyes are connected to your neck musculature. So if you're, and this is an issue I've had with clients in the past, is that they're set up at work, in that they've changed their setup and now they have, let's say, a monitor in front and a monitor to the side, and they're always looking down to their left. Well, if you're sitting there and you're listening to this podcast now, I would say look down to the left and put your hand on your neck at the same time. And you'll notice that the muscles in your neck contract as you look different ways, looking up and down, left and right. So if you're constantly looking down at a screen beside you and repeatedly doing that throughout the day, well, that's obviously going to cause fatigue, and that's going to cause issues with tightness, discomfort. So I'd say maybe it could be a better thing to move that monitor around if you have the chance to do it, or maybe change your positioning of where you're sitting, or just get the other movements start working into the other positions as well. That's a great way of just getting it moving that bit more. But you have to take the time out of your day to actually do it. And it doesn't have to be long. You can do all the movements in about 2 minutes or 3 minutes, but you do have to do them. And as I said, doing 2 to 3 reps isn't going to do you much good. So they're the kind of main ones that you can focus on. Now, as I always talk about in other podcasts, is that there's usually more things going on in the background. If your neck pain, if your neck has gotten very tight and your shoulders and back have gotten very tight, it's most likely that you're not moving them. You're probably sleeping poorly. So if you don't address that, it's always going to be in that protective mode. So you need to look at getting your sleep right, and whether that be getting your 8 hours at night, or if you're stuck for time 7, I would say minimum. And if you need a quick kind of get out of jail one, it's go for a nap in the day. You know, I love naps. They all help, and they're all excellent ways of reducing fatigue and increasing your energy levels. But you need to look at your sleep at nighttime. Look at your hydration as well, and look at your stress. If you're very stressed, you're going to be very tight. You're going to be uptight, I should say, and you're not going to be moving as much. So taking time out to just get out and walk in nature, relax yourself, go for a swim, whatever it is, just make sure to do different things that will help to, I guess, relax the body and relax your mind. It could be journaling, it could be meditation, whatever it is. What I would also say is that you need to connect everything. So, as everything is connected. So, when your neck is tight, you need to work the neck and work the shoulders, thoracic spine, arms, lumbar spine, everything. Just get the body moving more. It doesn't just have to be the neck itself. You can get everything else moving as they're all connected, because your traps obviously run into your neck and down your back. As everything is connected, you will notice a difference very quickly if you start working on everything together and you start connecting things. It will make a huge difference. So I would say to do that as much as possible as well. Just get it all working together. Now, it might be that you have basic exercises that you go through. It could be a mobility routine that you go through. It could be that you start including more work in your gym program to get those areas, I guess, contracting, building strength, building tolerance, and getting them moving more. If you can do that, you can free up a lot of these issues. So they're the kind of the basic ones of what I wanted to talk about today. It's a short podcast. I wanted to just touch on everything that you needed to know. And basically, a quick recap of what we were talking about. So I was saying, why do they get tight? Because it's an area that's highly protected, not moved enough, and people sit in the same position all day. It could be an area that you got injured before or got an impact to before, and now you're consciously aware of it, so now you lock everything up. On top of that, you need to look out for different symptoms into your hands, if you're getting bilateral symptoms, which is symptoms at both sides at the same time. Any sensory or motor dysfunction or disturbance in your hand. Dizziness, double vision, unrelenting pain, severe headache, and that's a severe headache at the back of the head, or severe headache in general. Trauma that you got hit to it, fainting, sickness, and trouble speaking. They're all red flags that you need to get assessed, and just make sure that you are getting them assessed. And then outside of that, then we talked about the different issues about like stopping activity completely, and not looking towards any active form of therapy, and just looking for passive things like massage and getting it rolled out, and maybe ultrasound and laser and all that. Those things will not help you long term. They might help you in the moments. You might feel better right then, there and then, but if you're not taking care of the underlying issue, of the movement issue or the sleep or the hydration, it's not going to last for too long, and you're going to be back again to that person very soon. How do you improve? Get it moving more, strengthen it, think about where your positioning is throughout the day. Are you always looking down to the same side because your eyes are connected to your neck? As I said, our eyes position is connected to the neck musculature. Take time out of your day to just relax, move, get outside, walk in nature, look at managing your stress a small bit better. And then on top of that, work on your neck, shoulders, thoracic spine, and arms all together. Get everything moving, lower back or lumbar spine. Get everything moving together, because it will be all connected. And if you start getting all the other issues cleared up, you'll find that that will clear up itself. So guys, I hope that is you've something to take away from that, and I hope that it gives you a better understanding of why your neck is getting tight on it every day, or when you're at work during the week. And if it is, and if it does give you better insight, I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear what you thought. I'd love if you could leave a comment even on Apple, or maybe subscribe on Apple, or subscribe on Spotify, and YouTube. If you could, it goes a long way as well in promoting the podcast, and I know what episode you like and what ones you really want to see more of. At the same time, I'd love if you could post it to your story on Instagram. It goes a long way in promoting the podcast. But for now, guys, that is everything that I want to discuss. So I hope everyone is well and healthy, and yeah, that's all. Have a good one.